facing flack over a housing and cost of living crisis, worries about immigration and a growing divide on culture issues, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is now facing a fresh storm in the form of Donald Trump. Opinion polls show that, in national elections that must take place by the fall under Canadian electoral rules, Justin Trudeau is unlikely to win a fourth term as Prime Minister. A Ledger survey from November found that 42% of Canadians said they plan to vote for the Conservatives in the next election, compared with 26% who backed the Liberals and 15% who picked the NDP. Nearly 7 in 10 Canadians also said they were dissatisfied with Trudeau's government, the same survey found. The country has been gearing up for a federal election next year that is widely expected to end a decade of Trudeau-led Liberal Party governments and usher in Pierre Poilievre as the next Canadian Prime Minister. The Liberals also lost the backing of the left-leaning New Democratic Party in September, when NDP leader Jagmeet Singh announced his party was withdrawing from a 2022 agreement to prop up Trudeau's minority government. While the NDP has continued to vote alongside the Liberals so far, the government is more vulnerable if a no-confidence vote is triggered in the House of Commons. The result of that vote could force Trudeau to call an early election, and amid this dipping popularity at home, Donald Trump's re-election to the White House has only exacerbated Trudeau's worries. Analysts say Trump's return to White House could spell more trouble for the embattled Canadian Prime Minister. Trump mocking Trudeau as the governor of the 51st state of the US is a preview of a belligerent strategy that is set to hit Trudeau hard. The US president-elect has often also said that it would be a great idea for Canada to become the 51st US state, claiming that many Canadians welcome the idea. Trump's threat to impose 25% tariffs on Canadian goods to coerce action from Ottawa on border issues has raised fears of a profound recession ahead of an election year in Canada.
We lose a lot of money to Mexico, we lose a lot of money to Canada, tremendous amount. We're subsidizing Canada, we're subsidizing Mexico, and that can't go on. And I get along with the people of Mexico and Canada very well, but we can't let that happen.
Canadian business leaders and politicians have been stepping up pressure on the Prime Minister about how he plans to respond to Trump's threats. The two countries are each other's top trading partners, and about 80% of Canada's exports flow to the United States, so the impact of such tariffs would be catastrophic for the Canadian economy. Trump has said that he would reconsider his tariff threat if Canada made serious improvements in managing the border between the two nations, which he and his advisors see as a security risk and a potential entry point for larger numbers of undocumented migrants. This week, the simmering crisis took an escalatory turn when Canada's Finance Minister, Chrystia Freeland, announced she was stepping down from her post because she and Trudeau were at odds about the best path forward. In her resignation letter, Freeland wrote, and I quote, "The incoming administration in the United States is pursuing a policy of aggressive economic nationalism, including a threat of 25% tariffs. We need to take that threat extremely seriously." Unquote. Freeland, in a stinging resignation letter, said Trudeau had attempted to demote her to minister without a portfolio, and she decided to leave the government instead. She is now expected to launch a leadership bid for the Liberal Party, a process that her departure could precipitate. At the heart of Freeland's resignation letter was a Trump-related argument, according to a New York Times report. She said that she and Trudeau had fallen out over expensive political gimmicks, a reference to his push for a sales tax holiday and sending checks to taxpayers that would add to the deficit. Trump welcomed Freeland's resignation in a social media post. The US president-elect wrote, and I quote, "The great state of Canada is stunned as the finance minister resigns, or was fired, from her position by Governor Justin Trudeau. Her behavior was totally toxic and not at all conducive to making deals which are good for the very unhappy citizens of Canada. She will not be missed." Unquote. Amid months of internal division, plummeting public confidence, calls for Trudeau to resign as leader of his Liberal Party in advance of elections next year have gained fresh momentum.
Right now, Canadians are struggling with the cost of living. I hear it everywhere I go. People cannot find a home that they can afford. They can't buy their groceries. And on top of that, we have Trump threatening tariffs at 25%, which put hundreds and thousands of Canadian jobs at risk. And instead of focusing on these issues, Justin Trudeau and the Liberals are focused on themselves. They're fighting themselves instead of fighting for Canadians. And for that reason, today I'm calling on Justin Trudeau to resign. He has to go.
To patriotic Liberals across the country, my message is this. You supported this government in good faith because you thought it was the right thing for the country. And you are good and decent patriotic people who have been let down by a Prime Minister and his top advisor, Mr. Carney, who have betrayed Ms. Freeland and you. Carney and Trudeau, the backroom boys, have taken the Liberal Party away from anything it used to stand for. What I'm calling for is let's bring home the common sense consensus of Liberals who believed in liberty, Conservatives who believed in conserving it, fiscal responsibility, compassion for our neighbours. These are the shared common values that will bind up our nation's wounds and bring us back together. Now is the time for a carbon tax election to turn the decision away from me or Mr. Trudeau or Mr. Singh or Mr. Carney and put it in the hands of the people. I know that they will make the right decision. Let's bring it home.
Trudeau has tried to show he's the best person to deal with Trump. He flew to Mar-a-Lago for dinner with Trump in November, the first leader from the group of 7 industrialized democracies to do so. But while Trudeau may have gotten a chance to make his case against tariffs and for closer cooperation, that hasn't stopped Trump from mocking him on social media. However, there have been tense moments between the two leaders, particularly when Trudeau and other NATO leaders were caught on camera apparently mocking the president, and when Trump slapped hefty tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum in 2018. And while Trudeau adopted a measured tone during Trump's presidency, he has been a little more direct since he exited office. In January, Trudeau told the Montreal Chamber of Commerce, and I quote, "It wasn't easy the first time, and if there is a second time, it won't be easy either. There are clearly issues where I do not agree at all with Mr. Trump." Unquote. Citing topics like climate change, Trudeau said another Trump presidency would be a step back and a win for a type of populism that reflects a lot of anguish and fury, without necessarily providing solutions. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau soared to victory in 2015 on the promise of change. However, nearly a decade later, a dark cloud has descended upon his increasingly unpopular administration. Trudeau's political downfall solidified in recent months after the Liberal Party lost a couple of historically safe seats in by-elections, prompting some within Trudeau's caucus to call for him to step aside. But will Trump and his tariff threat be the final nail in the coffin for the Trudeau administration in Canada? We'll wait and watch.